Madame Gazelle is a vampire. And no, it's not just about a missing reflection or some crusty old Christmas tree. 1. Madame Gazelle treats freezing water like a warm bath. In the episode Sun, Sea and Snow, the class heads to the beach, only to find the entire place covered in snow. The ocean is not frozen, but it looks absolutely freezing. Mummy Pig tries to be brave and steps into the water, only to rush out seconds later, shivering and miserable. Then, Madame Gazelle calmly walks into the icy sea, smiles and says, "The water feels wonderful." She does not flinch. She does not shake. She looks perfectly relaxed, as if the cold does not touch her at all. This is not something most living beings can do, especially not someone who has supposedly been around for decades. Her body reacts more like a creature with no need for warmth. She might actually be cold-blooded, like the legends say. 2. Madame Gazelle has a midnight grooming schedule. When Madame Gazelle goes on vacation, she leaves Peppa's family in charge of her guinea pigs. Along with the pets, she gives them a detailed care schedule. Most of the list looks ordinary until one line catches everyone's attention. According to her instructions, the guinea pigs must be brushed in the middle of the night, specifically at 2 a.m. That is not a typo, and it is not played as a joke. For most people, this kind of timing makes no sense. Who brushes small animals while the rest of the world is asleep? For Madame Gazelle, however, it appears to be completely normal. She is always alert during the day and shows no signs of fatigue. Fans of the theory believe this strange routine fits perfectly with her being a nocturnal creature. If she never sleeps, it might be because she is not supposed to. 3. Madame Gazelle might be hiding centuries of insomnia. Madame Gazelle is always wide awake, no matter the time or day. She never looks tired, and she never mentions needing rest. But take a closer look at her eyes. She wears a thick layer of blue eyeshadow in nearly every scene. Some fans believe it is not for fashion, it is for cover. If she truly never sleeps, those dark circles would be impossible to miss. The eyeshadow might be her way of hiding the truth. 4. Madame Gazelle has strength that shouldn't exist. In one episode, Madame Gazelle plays a simple game of bat and ball with the children. At first, it seems normal, until it's her turn to swing. With one hit, she sends the ball flying so hard that it smashes straight into the school roof and leaves a huge dent. The children cheer, but let's be honest, no ordinary teacher should have that kind of power. She is not a young athlete. She is supposed to be an elderly school teacher who has taught for generations. Yet, somehow, she shows strength that looks more like something from a superhero movie than a preschool classroom. According to vampire legends, unnatural strength is one of the oldest signs of the undead. 5. Madame Gazelle casually rejects garlic like a true vampire. During a class trip to the forest, the children explore plants and flowers. At one point, they come across a patch of wild garlic. Madame Gazelle looks at it, pauses, and then quietly says she doesn't like it very much. She moves on without another word, but for anyone paying attention, that moment feels suspicious. Garlic is one of the most well-known vampire repellents in folklore. People have used it for centuries to ward off creatures of the night. Most teachers would at least talk about the plant or explain why it grows in the wild. Instead, Madame Gazelle keeps her distance and offers no real reason for disliking it. 6. Madame Gazelle might be based on a real vampire animal. There is a real animal known as the vampire deer. It is not just a nickname, it is an actual species of deer with long, sharp fangs that stick out like a cartoon villain's teeth. While the animal is harmless in real life, its appearance is strange enough to inspire legends. Some fans believe this creature may have influenced Madame Gazelle's design. She has horns, a long face, and a mysterious past that never gets explained. If the creators of Peppa Pig were looking for a subtle hint, they may have found the perfect animal to base her on. 7. Madame Gazelle's origin may come from a real Romanian tragedy. Some fans believe Madame Gazelle was inspired by a real person, Graziella Morgenstein, a Romanian girl who lived in the early 1900s. Graziella had a rare disease called porphyria, which caused severe reactions to sunlight. Her skin would blister, scar, and age quickly, forcing her to stay inside during the day. In her small village, people did not understand the condition. Locals began to believe she was cursed or even a vampire. Because she looked older than she was and avoided the sun, rumors quickly spread. Graziella was feared, mocked, and eventually driven from her home. Some say she inspired the idea of a lonely but kind immortal who hides in plain sight. Madame Gazelle shares the same quiet sadness. the same nighttime habits, and the same mysterious aura. If this theory is true, the Peppa Pig character is not just a joke, she is a tribute to someone who was misunderstood her entire life. 8. Madame Gazelle may have started over in secret. After escaping the horrors of war, Grella Morgenstein, believed to be the real-life inspiration for Madame Gazelle, settled in Norwich, a quiet town far from her painful past. There, she opened a small school and began teaching local children. She never married, never left town, and never stopped working. Strangely, her appearance stayed the same for decades. Parents who were once her students noticed that she had not aged at all. Whispers spread, and some believed she was immortal. Despite the rumors, she stayed kind and dedicated. If Madame Gazelle truly reflects her story, then she is not just a vampire in hiding, she is a symbol of survival, quietly living among the children, helping them learn while keeping her own history buried. It is no wonder she always seems calm. She has already lived through far worse than preschool chaos. 9. Madame Gazelle was the first failed hybrid. There's a strange theory that Peppa Pig's world began with a science experiment gone wrong. A group of scientists wanted to stop people from dying, so they used vegetables to keep human bodies alive. The idea was to mix plant cells with humans, creating something that never aged. But one test subject didn't turn out right. The experiment made her part human, part animal, and possibly the first of her kind. That subject was Madame Gazelle. She returned with no signs of aging, and something inside her had changed. Some believe she carried a virus that slowly turned other humans into talking animals. Unlike the others, she never changed form again. She stayed frozen in time. She even taught Peppa's parents when they were kids, and still looks exactly the same. If this theory is true, Madame Gazelle isn't just a teacher. She's the origin of everything. 10. Madame Gazelle helps hide the truth. There's a theory that Peppa Pig's world is fake, but not in the way you think. After a virus turned people into animal-like beings, someone had to keep everyone calm. That someone was Mr. Potato. He created a colorful TV show to distract the population and erase all memory of the old world. But he didn't work alone. Madame Gazelle became the quiet enforcer. She doesn't teach history. She never mentions the past. Instead, she leads songs, dance, counting, and games, all designed to keep the kids happy and busy. No questions, no thinking too hard. While the show keeps everyone distracted, Madame Gazelle watches them closely. She's not just a teacher, she's part of the system that hides what really happened. And if anyone starts to remember, she's probably the first to know. 11. Madame Gazelle might be older than time itself. Something strange happens when you look at who Madame Gazelle has taught. It's not just Peppa's class. She also taught Peppa's parents when they were children. Same classroom, same voice, same exact face. Meanwhile, every other adult in the show has aged like a normal person. Daddy Pig has wrinkles. Grandpa Dog has a white beard. Even the trees have grown. But Madame Gazelle hasn't changed at all. Not a single wrinkle. Not one gray hair. It's like time doesn't touch her. Either she's got the best skincare routine in the universe, or she's not fully alive. This isn't just a detail the animators forgot. It happens in flashbacks too. She's always frozen in time. If she's really that old, then what else is she hiding? Because no teacher should be this ageless, unless there's something else entirely. 12. Madame Gazelle might be controlling time. Peppa's school never changes. The classroom always looks the same. The lessons are always simple: songs, counting, drawing. But here's the weird part. There are no working clocks. The kids never mention weekends, holidays, or even what day it is. It's like they're stuck in a loop, repeating the same day forever. And guess who stands at the center of it all? Madame Gazelle. She's always there, always calm, never tired. The theory says she's not just teaching, she's stretching time, slowing it down, keeping the kids locked in a bubble where nothing changes and no one remembers anything before. Maybe it's to keep them safe, or maybe it's to keep them quiet. Either way, something is seriously off. Because if time is frozen, then who's controlling it? And why is Madame Gazelle the only one who never seems surprised? 13. Madame Gazelle has no reflection. Literally, in 2 separate episodes, something unusual happens that most viewers miss on the first watch. Madame Gazelle stands directly in front of a mirror, but her reflection is nowhere to be seen. In the Halloween music video, and again in the Pumpkin Party episode, the glass shows Peppa and Susie Sheep clearly, yet there is absolutely no sign of their teacher. This was not a simple mistake. It happened in 2 different scenes, released at different times, and was carefully animated to look exactly that way. In classic vampire legends, beings without souls are invisible to mirrors. That rule seems to apply here. What makes it even stranger is that Peppa and Susie both notice the missing reflection. Madame Gazelle doesn't flinch. 14. Madame Gazelle might be from Dracula's neighborhood. In one episode, something strange comes crawling out of Madame Gazelle's giant Christmas tree. Bats. Real ones. They aren't decorations, and they aren't lost. They're just living up there like it's perfectly normal. When Mr. Bull finds them, Madame Gazelle doesn't panic. Instead, she softly says they remind her of the old country. That one quiet line changed everything for fans of vampire theory. What exactly is her old country? She never says the name, but the clue is right there. Bats, nostalgia, cold weather. It all points to one place. Transylvania. It's the classic vampire homeland, and it fits almost too well. She doesn't seem surprised by the bats. In fact, she almost looks comforted. Most people would scream if bats flew out of their tree. Madame Gazelle just smiles, like someone who's been around them her whole life. 15. Madame Gazelle has a portrait that time forgot. Inside Madame Gazelle's house, there's an old black and white photo hanging on the wall. It shows a serious-looking gazelle in vintage clothing, most likely her husband. The frame is dusty, the photo is faded, and the style looks like it came from at least 50 years ago. What's strange is not the picture. It's what doesn't change. The photo stays exactly the same in both past and present scenes. The house ages. The Christmas tree outside grows huge. But Madame Gazelle never changes at all. She looks exactly the same in every flashback, standing beside a photo that suggests she's been alone for decades. Her husband seems long gone. Everything around her has moved on, but she hasn't. 16. Madame Gazelle planted a tree that grew, but she didn't. In one episode, Peppa and her family visit Madame Gazelle's home, which is being pushed sideways by a massive Christmas tree growing next to it. Madame Gazelle casually mentions she planted the tree herself when it was still tiny. That sounds sweet, until you realize just how tall the tree is now. It towers over the house, easily 4 stories high. In the real world, a tree that size would take around 40 years to grow. But when the show flashes back to the day she planted it, Madame Gazelle looks exactly the same as she does now. No wrinkles, no change, nothing. The house aged, the tree grew, but she didn't. If the timeline is correct, she hasn't changed in decades. Either she's drinking something stronger than herbal tea, or she stopped aging a long time ago and never told anyone. 17. Madame Gazelle's musical past may be more than a joke. Long before she became a teacher, Madame Gazelle and her sisters formed a small rock band called Rocking Gazelles. Grella played guitar and was nicknamed Gigi, a detail that strangely shows up in Peppa Pig, where Madame Gazelle is often seen with a guitar and referred to by the same initials. In the show, she performs music effortlessly, as if it is second nature. Some episodes even reference her time in a band, but never go into detail. For a quiet school teacher, she has a surprisingly strong stage presence and a voice filled with hidden history. 18. Madame Gazelle never leaves for a reason. In nearly every episode, Madame Gazelle is always inside the classroom. She rarely goes anywhere else, and when she does, it feels temporary, like she's stepping away from a post she can't abandon for long. Some believe she stays because she is protecting the children. Others think she is watching them. Her calm voice, her constant presence, and her perfect control of the room all hint at something deeper. Maybe the classroom isn't just for learning. Maybe it's a place designed to contain something, memories, behavior, or something even darker. And Madame Gazelle could be the keeper of a secret. 19. Madame Gazelle is the perfect vampire, but with a twist. She has no reflection, avoids garlic, never ages, and seems fully nocturnal. She checks every box on the vampire list. But unlike the legends, she is kind, calm, and protective. Some believe she has evolved, no longer feeding on blood, but on structure, routine, and time itself. If she's a vampire, she might be the world's gentlest one. 20. Madame Gazelle can't hide the truth forever. Lately, something strange is happening in Peppa's world. The characters are starting to remember things they should have forgotten. Mr. Fox knows more than he should. Peppa asks too many questions. Even Madame Gazelle seems unsettled when certain topics come up. If Peppa ever uncovers the truth about the virus, the hybrids, or the strange, ageless teacher at the front of the class, the entire illusion could fall apart. The bright colors, the cheerful songs, the perfect routines may not survive one curious mind. And if that day ever comes, Madame Gazelle might be forced to choose between silence and survival. So next time you hear Madame Gazelle strum her guitar, remember, She might be older than time itself. But here's the real question. What exactly is she protecting the kids from? Let us know your take below and hit subscribe for more secrets from Peppa's Twisted World.